And welcome to this telecast of news and current affairs. Let's get into it already with our headlining story tonight. The National Resistance Movement Party has today celebrated their 35th Liberation Day anniversary at State House Entebbe amidst observation of strict COVID-19 guidelines. Dignitaries like the First Lady, the Vice President and other government officials were in attendance. The President-elect Turyagumanawe MUSEVENI strongly warned anyone who is plotting violence to be careful not to fall victim to the likely circumstances. We have the details in this report. Take a look.
The 35th National Liberation Day celebrations commemorating the day the National Resistance Army took power, ousting the Obuta II regime, today took place in the State House Entebbe in a scientific ceremony that saw only a handful of dignitaries attend the ceremony. Today's event was presided over by the President of Uganda, Elijaha Museveni, and some of the people in attendance at the State House Entebbe included the First Lady, Janet Museveni, Vice President of Uganda, Edward Chibukati, Cabinet Ministers, religious leaders and some members of the diplomatic corps. The surprise guest, however, was former Prime Minister of Uganda, John Patrick Mbabazi. Unlike other national celebrations, today saw the government follow strict observance of the COVID-19 guidelines and standard operating measures, and all guests had to wear face masks at all times and observe social distancing. Today also saw the event have very few guests in attendance compared to the other events in the past. In his speech, Guest of Honor and President of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, warned all those who want to wreak havoc, destabilize Uganda and also carry out violence.
I appeal to all Ugandans, forget about violence. Don't dream about it, because it won't work. It won't work. Forget about threats. Please, you are wasting your time and you are creating blood pressure for nothing for yourself. That's why I don't have blood pressure.
Museveni also further warned politicians who are going around sowing seeds of hatred, sectarianism and tribalistic tendencies, something he says should stop immediately.
Religious groups, but please, love Uganda. If you love Uganda, you would solve the problems of the people better than if you emphasize loving the tribes and the religious groups. You can love them, your tribes and religious groups, but not mixing them with the politics, not mixing them with the management of society.
Museveni also commended the National Liberation Movement and Army for liberating Uganda and ensuring that the country remains peaceful. Some of the religious leaders that were in attendance prayed for peace in Uganda.
With one another at all costs. Forgive each other for whatever went wrong on both sides, and finding to reconcile with those who have different views from ours. Your Excellency, as a sign of reconciliation, as religious leaders, we request that government allows Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi to have his freedom of movement and
thus lose courage, and then your strength would vanish. And be patient. Indeed, Allah is with the patient. So in this verse, God advises us how to maintain the victory.
It should be remembered that on 6th February 1981, Elijaha Museveni and a handful of soldiers, armed with just 27 guns, took to the bush to fight until they would emerge to be victorious on the 26th of January 1986, a day that has been celebrated today. KYAGULANYI for Select News.
Liberation Day worth celebrating, and it is indeed a happy Liberation Day from wherever you're watching us from. We're coming to you live all the way from Buziga Hill, that is along Lukuri Road, where we're streaming to you live on all our digital platforms, but also on mainstream media. Yeah, still on Matters Liberation Day, we do move on to yet another story. As National Resistance Movement Party NRM celebrates the 35th Liberation Anniversary, STV took to the streets to find out what different Ugandans think about this day. Well, this was in a bid to examine the comprehension and understanding of the magnitude of the day, the Liberation Day, to be very particular. Let's take a look.
Today was a public holiday in Uganda as NRM celebrated 35 years after liberation from Obote's government. We decided to take the streets and find out how people around the city celebrated this day. Our cameras got very surprised to find that people were very busy on their grind, like they weren't bothered about the seemingly special public holiday. Well, our cameras then got blown by strong winds to Gisenyi, where we met the LC1 chairman, Haji Swele Tivamwenda, who has been in this position of office since 1986. He gave us his view about what he thinks are the achievements of this government over the years.
Bingi ebikoleddwa nja kubawa ekyokulabirako ekisooka nze bwe namaliriza my senior 6 saafuna points zintwala Makerere mu university namala kuyita mu other ways nga n'emyaka giyiseewo nensooka njoyininga Makerere naye currently as we talk mwena nga bwe mbayina wano muli ba university. Why? Twafuna university eziwera naye luli twalina ka university kamu. That is a big achievement or development gye twafuna in terms of education. Bonna ne babeera involved mu politics oyo ow'okukyalo. So buli muntu yenna kati asobola okubuuza, buli gw'oyagala okukwatako akubuuza nti mu constitution ekintu ekyo kiriwa. Naye nga ffe twatuukanga ne mu P7 nga tumanyi tewali n'ekigambo constitution of the country.
He also went ahead to tell us the hindrances he thinks have been faced.
Bwengenda ndaba kati the problem is being created itself. Butandise challenges zitandise okugira mu kulonda. Nti kulonda bw'okutunuuliranga kutandikira ku okulonda kwaffe kwaliwo kwa NRM. Noteekako ne kunu sometimes, somehow.
He further expressed his grievances towards the people in leadership who don't extend the people's issues to the head of state.
Kulonda kwetaaga okulongoosa. A voice to His Excellency, the President of this Republic of Uganda, nze gwentwalanga the best ruler oba leader, sorry, not ruler, leader mu ba presidents binali nfunyeeko. Naye problem ejjawo oba problem ezze eri nti sometime back walingawo pipeline ng'ejja information from the grassroots up to him.
It would be very unfair for us not to hear from the Ugandans who have been under this leadership for the last 35 years. So we tried our level to talk to them, and here is what they had to say.
Oguza omuntu ekintu nga tayagala kukola ki kukigula awoza bbeeyi nene biki bwe bityo nga bw'obimanyi.
Okay.
Naye nga NRM erina kyeyambye bantu naddala ffe abavubuka. NRM ku myaka gyayo 35 gyejaguza sigirabamu kalungi konna okujjako tusingamu obubi okugamba nti nno byetukoledde etugamba nguudo ate enguudo tebazirya tuli bantu baavu bantu basulanya bati balina kyakulya okale twenyumize mu gavumenti eno
yajja mu butongole naye nze kusinziira mu gavumenti engajja mu butongole kituufu tugikuliddemu katukulidde naye mabega kawo twalinga mu ggwanga nga sabbuno osobola okugula w'ekikumi ng'omutwalo gusobola okubeerako mu nsawo naye essaawa zino ofuna omutwalo nobanga ofunye ennusu 1,000 teri kinomanga kati essaawa zino omuvubuka ovudde ku ssomero osomye naye nga ne ssente zitandika bizinesi tozi.
The people did not stay home for the holiday, but they just might have chosen to celebrate the day at work. Carol Tumwine for Select News.
Well, one thing continuously keeps my head spinning. Man used 27 guns to oust the government then in a guerrilla war. There was a bush war. After democracy failed, he decided to take it to the bush to see that he can get power using 27 guns. Now, that is proper utilization of resources. If you studied or know economics, you exactly know what I'm talking about. Now, we do move on to yet another story, Still Matters Liberation. In a one-on-one conversation, exclusive conversation at that, with the UPDF strongman as the country reflects on the National Liberation Day celebrations. Peace has been pointed out as a major achievement since 1986. Brigadier General Felix Kulaije, who has served under the Uganda People's Defence Forces UPDF in various capacities, including Army Political Commissar and a representative in the August House, draws light on the achievements that have been attained by the ruling National Resistance Movement, Army, now National Resistance Movement Party, 35 years down the road. Let's take a look.
As we celebrate the National Liberation Day, according to Brigadier General Felix Kulaije, the big conversation should rotate around what the NRM government has achieved over the past 35 years, which is evidently visible, singling out peace and stability.
For starters, you can't talk of liberation unless there was a bad situation. And indeed, politically, economically, socially, this country had gone to the dogs. Some people don't want to admit it, but it's factual. The economy was growing at minus 400%. The inflation was in 4 digits, so to speak. We did recover from that and start growing. Now we have been the fastest growing economy. I think number 5.
The peace that was fought for and achieved in 1986 has become a confusion with the daily deployments of men in uniform in public places, which many wonders what the heavy regular deployments reflect peace and stability of the country. This was Brigadier General Felix Kulaije's take, weighing on the same.
There are several. First and foremost, the attitude in Africa is as if somebody else owes you living than yourself. Whereas culturally, some of us were told, if you don't work, you won't eat. In the modern times, the last 10-15 years, we think government should provide everything, including food on my table. We are falling short of saying government should marry for us. You know?
With overwhelming demand for change in government and clamoring voices over the NRM's overstay in power, mostly from the youth, Kulaije had this to say.
Foremost is the leadership of our minds. We have, in my humble view, President MUSEVENI is still the correct person. Because all this we are talking about is because of his leadership. Unfortunately, some of us have let him down. At ministerial level, at parliament, at district level, we have left him alone.
But at the end of the day, people are pointing at him.
Of course.
Pointing at the protocols.
That's what I'm telling you. We always blame the president. Even when you beat your wife, she wants to go to the president to report you. But the police is next to you. So we need to change, first of all, our mindset.
Regarding economic growth, Kulaije says Ugandans have failed to fully embrace, support and promote local business through consumption of locally made products, even after introduction of the presidential campaign dubbed by Buy Uganda, Build Uganda, which apparently hit a snag.
For me, I believe in national service. That the best way of helping our young people develop mentally is for them to go for national service. From Kapchorwa, you meet somebody from Luwero, you meet somebody from Marua, in one place. You are taught life skills, you are taught your country, you are taught even military skills, because the Constitution requires, in Article 17, that every able-bodied Ugandan must be ready to defend her country or his country. So once we spend time in national service, 2 years in national service, we shall appreciate each other, we shall appreciate our country, we shall have our minds fixed on what we can do for ourselves. Otherwise, as of now, we admire what is elsewhere than what we have around us.
The Liberation Day is driven for the events that took place 35 years ago, and others took to the bush to take over the state power on 25th January 1986, declaring National Liberation Day the following day, 26th January, the same year overwhelming Obote's government, giving birth to National Resistance Army, which later turned to National Resistance Movement, NRM. Hasif Sechunga for STV.
There, Asif Sechunga in a one-on-one conversation with the Brigadier General. And of course, I do applaud the Brigadier General for being a man so down to earth and allowing to speak to the viewers of STV, particularly select news there. And I do concur with him on various issues, not just economic issues, but also social issues that Ugandans have failed to embrace our own products and making sure that we embrace them, we purchase them, but also getting involved in our own products and not continuously admiring and also importing foreign products, which of course incurs a cost in one way or another. Instead of keeping the money inside our economy, we end up putting it out to other external economies, which is absolutely not right. I do agree with the Brigadier General on those particular issues. Well, Second News will take a short break and return with more. Just stay with us.
You're watching STV, select for fun.
You are welcome to the High School Apprentice Season 1, Facing the Future.
I'm Lubega Mahad.
Belisa Morris.
And I'm really excited to join the High School Apprentice, and I'm looking forward to winning.
Buyajja natugamba nti bajja kujja batukime. Era nensanyuka nnyo okulaba nti mujja okumukima.
The next task, it's more of a sports task. You're in the boardroom. You know what that means. One of you is going home.
Do not speak of 1,000. It is 2,000. Do not speak of 1,000.
We've messed up. We've been selling at a lesser price.
I'll start off with you. I need 2 names from your team of people who did not perform.
We are aiming all to win.
Hey guys, you're watching STV, select for fun.
Well, welcome back from that short commercial break. Select News Desk continue with more stories that we do bring to you live from Buziga, where we're streaming live. Democratic Party DP has come out to announce their move to boycott today's National Liberation Day celebrations, saying the day no longer holds meaning to the objectives of its establishment. They further condemned the ruling National Resistance Movement Party, NRM, for twisting of the National Unity Platform's victory in the central region and calling it tribal-oriented. We have the details.
Today, the National Resistance Movement government celebrated Liberation Day, a day meant to commemorate the struggles of the NRM cadres and their sacrifice in liberating the country, meant to be celebrated with vigor. It turned out to be like any other day for a number of people, including the Democratic Party. This day has been marked on the calendar as a public holiday which gives workers a day off from their daily schedule. A walk through town, however, shows people unbothered about the day. Shops opened and business as usual. Only government workers ordinarily took the day off work. According to the Democratic Party spokesperson, Okaleur Opiola Amuno, the NRM Liberation Day has lost meaning and strength and only has it to a few beneficiaries of NRM who are left to celebrate the day.
So amenu nulagano gabantu balondemu era ffe nga Democratic Party tukkiriza nti Uganda nga Uganda eyawamu tenunulwanga.
He described the NRM party leaders with tribalistic comments over the new party's win in the central region as derogatory and diminishing.
Uganda ebadde eyonsa NRM naye kati ku mulundi guno tulina essanyu nti Buganda yazuukuse negamba waaye nkuyonsaza ekimala onanyonka musaayi. Buganda neyeekuula NRM kati NRM mu kifo ky'okukkiriza mu mutima mulungi nti nina okutereeza ebyasoba ate babiggyemu feelings.
Democratic Party has had overriding support from the central region, and to see this support shift as quickly to the NUP left them surprised. They, however, say this should only come to show that the central region does not cast their votes based on tribalistic tendencies, but on a majority support and the wave of change. Shamira Nagawa, STV Select News.
On from the second oldest political party, that is after UPC, that's the Democratic Party, and to yet another story. That's what the National Unity Platform NUP President Robert Kyagulanyi, who was also a presidential candidate that ranked second in the recently concluded presidential polls, has assured the sitting government that he will not use chaos or violence to unseat the ruling government, but their demise will manifest within a year. Well, he wasn't very clear about what that move will be. They will unseat the government. He met with the National Unity Platform NUP members of Parliament and urged them not to disappoint their constituency, but also the cause of NUP.
The National Unity Platform President Robert Kyagulanyi has held a press conference in his home in Magere, where he and his wife Babi Itungo Kyagulanyi have been under preventive house arrest over assertions of a plan to cause mayhem. This becomes his first address after the High Court asked security to vacate his premises, citing lack of evidence.
The country can never be the same again. I know that many of you have been to a good deal demoralized. I've personally been in incarceration for the last 11 days. Today is the first time that I'm meeting many of you, that I'm talking to many of you. The First Lady that you decided, that the people of Uganda decided should be the next First Lady, has been in incarceration with me. We are not broken. We were not broken.
In attendance were the 61 NUP MPs elect from various constituencies who defied the odds to win the polls. The relief of finally being able to speak to their patron was visible.
A year is too long. A year under General MUSEVENI means more deaths, means more oppression, means more poverty, means more lawlessness. Even a month, even a week. The people of Uganda have the right to stand, to rise up against misrule, against injustice, anytime, as soon as yesterday and as late as now.
In his speech, Kyagulanyi warned his party members against betraying their voters. His message pointed towards the members of parliament, who he asked not to ignore the voices of the constituencies they are representing in the 11th August House.
Now, honorable members, but it is important to know these things below. One, it is just the beginning, and there's nothing to celebrate right now. There's nothing to celebrate when General MUSEVENI, using his divide and rule tactics, is trying to channel this and create a narrative that this was a tribal election.
He urged them not to get too comfortable in their positions, saying proving their worth in the 11th Parliament will be their struggle in bringing an end to Museveni's 35-year regime.
This generation that very many of you represent, I can see you. very many of you, even as newly elected members of parliament, I believe the majority of you were not born when Museveni took over our country. Look at yourselves right now. The people of Uganda have entrusted you to liberate them from this level, and that's exactly what we are going to do.
The 14th January election results saw President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni announced winner with 58% of the votes over Robert Kyagulanyi's 34% votes.
I tell you in no uncertain terms that I was elected the democratic president of Uganda. The people of Uganda elected the National Unity Platform. Although the Electoral Commission has announced only 61 of us, you are aware that very many of us actually won. We were asked about going to court. First of all, I want you to know that we have overwhelming evidence. Overwhelming evidence in terms of discrepancies in the figures. You all know that Mr. Byabakama announced results that were non-existent. They first announce the winner, and then they start compiling results. That is what Mr. Byabakama did, and we disagreed with that fraud.
The NUP president is, however, convinced that he won the elections and he will exploit all legal and non-violent means to challenge the results in the coming days.
And I want you to know that General Museveni wants so desperately to put an end to this and pretend that we are moving on. We are not moving on to anywhere. We won him. He is not the legally elected president. He is an imposter. Yes, he is. Overwhelming evidence. Overwhelming evidence. In terms of discrepancies in the figures, you all know that Mr. Byabakama announced results that were non-existent. They first announce the winner, and then they start compiling results. That is what Mr. Byabakama did.
At the conclusion of the press conference, the team, together with their patron, held a closed-door meeting without the presence of the media.
Your constituencies have elevated you and made you stand out. I want you to remember that 100% of our campaign team are in prison. I want you to remember that we stand here on the blood of very many comrades that have been murdered innocently. Which blood we must make good of. They are looking at us. The people of Uganda are relying on us.
Robert Kyagulanyi held the press conference on the same day as the NRM's Liberation Day celebrations and President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni's speech, where he also talked about the recently concluded elections, sending a stern warning to all those that want to cause violence. Latifa Hamid, Select News.
Now, police fired tear gas to angry supporters in Entebbe district who were not contented with the outcomes of the election process that were announced in the area. Well, according to the electorate in the area, the voting results were tampered with and therefore manipulated.
Yesterday, people voted their division mayors and chairpersons, and thereafter, none took the chance by heading home but stayed on site for hours and ending to protect their votes. Most of the results tallied were respected by the winners and losers alike, albeit in Entebbe, where drama ensued, forcing police to interject with tear gas.
Agent, go, the candidate remain. What is it? He lost. Why is he here? Why is he here? This one is an agent. With agents. When now I'm there, Teva Mulese, Kutare Center, Church Mulese.
The results tallied and announced by Tolobat Musinguzi proclaimed Fabrice Luhinda an independent as the winner. These voters did not agree with, forcing them to cause mayhem.
If you want, you kill me. If you want, you kill me. Afande, there's a reason why we are here. No. Afande, there's a reason why we are here. Why we are here. How comes that the last person is out all of this?
In the suburbs of Machinje Sabagabo, Engineer Semwanga Kabuzi won General Lumbuye from the DP camp.
Ewafu wabadde amataba abantu bandise enkoko waggulu egassa abantu simple theory mu engineering twina simple approach ku myala tokkiriza myala kugenda nga gimyanda iringa bwegiti.
In Chira municipality meanwhile, Julius Mutebi from the NUP camp retained his position as the mayor, winning Mamerito, an NRM candidate. Julius has appreciated Kira residents for trusting him and giving him another term.
Abantu bonna bannakira abampadde akalulu kano mu bungi kubanga ndowooza percentage eringa 68%.
He further spoke against security for mishandling his supporters yesterday during the voting process.
Manyiddwa nga drone nga ya ndabirwamu nzikivu babawambye ne babatwala nakati tetunnaba abamu kumanya wa gye bali mwabaddemu okukuba abantu baffe emiggo abasirikale bakubye abantu emiggo mwabaddemu okukuba ku voter location slips eyo bwe bakubidde ku nasa n'ebintu ebirala bingi.
Wakiso district saw votes from different polling stations which were brought in at 6 p.m. In Nansana municipality, the rest was between 4 people: Regina Bakoye, Nakazim Soke of NUP, Hamidun Subuga Kizito of NRM, Lawrence Kibirige of DP, and Bukahari Gamba, Independent. The tallied results announced NUP's Regina Bakite winner with 33,007 votes.
Accordingly, as a planning officer for Wakiso district, I declare Bakite Regina Musoke was obtained the largest number of votes, winner for Nansana Municipality Electoral Area in Wakiso district.
Ekyokusooka kyendabira byonna gye tuyise kwe kulaba nti tusooka okufuna kye bayita load unit kuba tugyetaaga esobola okutimira enguudo ate tujja kukoma enguudo zetaaga okuzisitula kube ku mutindo gwa kolas.
Latifa Hamid, Maria Diane, Select News.
Now moving on to what's happening in the world of business. In the world of business, the Ministry of Finance is seeking for a whopping 165 billion Ugandan shillings for the 11th members of Parliament, who each is designated for an amiable usher-in of 320 million Ugandan shillings to cater for their vehicles, while their 556 occupants of the 11th August House will, among other privileges, enjoy brand new motor vehicles as accorded by law. Well, shall be expounding on this conversation as of what impact this money will have. And of course, this discussion was sparked off by the reading of the budget framework paper for the financial year 2021-2022. 2021-2022. Well, this paperwork was presented in the August House as part of the very first duties, and of course the Ministry of Finance, to be very specific, the Minister of Finance, Matia Kasaija, is headed for a very hard task of looking for this money and presenting it before the August House to see that the law can be respected and followed. This discussion will be expounded and followed to the dot. You can trust ACE-TV to bring you all the details and follow-ups on current affairs and news. That was in the world of business and economics news that we did have for you this evening. We shall be moving on to what's happening in the world of sports. Well, in the world of sports, the Uganda Cranes CHAN team will face Morocco in the last group match at the CHAN tournament. FUFO President Moses Magogo visited the team in Cameroon ahead of the match. In Cameroon is where Uganda Cranes were preparing intensely for these matches. We take a look.
As the Uganda Cranes football team for the locally based players heads into a do-or-die last group match against current champions Morocco in the CHAN football tournament, which is being played in Cameroon, a lot is at stake for the Cranes. After a draw against Rwanda in the opening match and losing to Togo in the second, Uganda needs a win to qualify for the second round. While on his official visit at the national team camp in Douala, former President Engineer Moses Magogo highlighted about the team performances at the tournament.
Undergoing a transition from a generation of players to another. So for us as a federation, CHAN, or the African Championship of Nations, is a development side where players are tried and tested so that they can be prepared for the Uganda Cranes, and that's the senior team.
He further said Uganda can win against Morocco as Cranes has done before in 1978, and the CHAN team is in a building process for future national duties.
Told was to beat the defending champion called Morocco, and when we played the final game, group stage game, like where we are, we play against Morocco, who are defending champions, was that we needed a win for us to stay in the championship, and which we did and got. I'm so optimistic that we still have the opportunity to beat Morocco tomorrow.
It should be noted that Uganda Cranes has played at 5 CHAN tournaments: 2011, 2014, 2016, 2018 and 2021 for the locally based African players, with pleasure mounting on coach John McKinstry for the team to perform. Saika Yasin, Karatumwene for Select News.
Well, every beginning has an end, and so every delicious meal has a last bite. You've been an amazing viewer of Select News, and I don't take that for granted. From the beginning of this telecast to the end, sticking with us is an amazing job well done. From me and the entire team, it is a good night and stay safe. Take care of yourself. Of course, it has been Sam behind the cameras and Latif Ahmed in the control room, making sure she directs this bulletin all the way to its end. You can continue with the conversation. Keep the fire burning. Keep the conversation going on all our digital platforms. That's at STV Uganda, but also my personal digital platforms is at Twitter. My Twitter handle is at Elijaha Turia, and Facebook Elijaha Turyagumanawe, as well as Instagram. It's a good night.